discrimination, privilege, guilt, diversity, victim, aggressor, integration, civility, respect, racism, hate, injustice, all lives matter, right or wrong, reverse racism, law and order, social justice, injustice, guilt, discrimination, civil disobedience, Black Lives Matter, due process, relations, segregation, affirmative action. We go on and on and on and on. But how can a nation that was built on slavery, still full of racial discrimination today, possibly have biblical roots? I've been hurt by racism in a so-called Christian America, and I just don't understand why so many conservative evangelicals say this country is based on Christian values. And as an African American who has faced racial hatred, I find this perspective unbelievable. If that's Christianity, then I don't want anything to do with it. Those were the words of a young lady, an African American, who felt like, and still feels to this day, that she has been completely wronged by this country that says they stand behind Christianity and they are backed by and founded upon Christian values. Yet still we have racism, we have injustice, we have segregation, we have civil disobedience, we have people saying all lives matter and Black Lives Matter just for it to be seen as a comic. And so we say to that individual that, you know what? We want you to know that we understand your perspective. We empathize with your feelings. Racial hatred and discrimination are more than just glaring social injustices. It is real. And it is a direct attack to our God. Racism runs deeply and it counters everything the gospel represents. Everything the gospel represents. And we say, you know what? We know all of these things. We hear all of this, Denise. We hear it. And that the church was designed to be on the forefront of conversations about race. The church has been called to speak out against oppression, defend the marginalized, live as peacemakers, and lead their communities in reconciliation and transformational change. That's what we say the church is supposed to do. And you know what? You're saying it again, Denise. Ladies of ImPowered women, we know this already. To do nothing would be wrong. To say nothing would negate our witness. But where do we start? And it's a difficult conversation, a very difficult conversation to have. And I'm sure you can see I'm all choked up about it myself, because as I even try to say my words, they get all twisted up about this thing, because it is real. Racism is real. And so tonight, we're going to chat about it a little bit from our perspective. So, and we'd love to hear your perspective. We'd love for you to share. We'd love for you to forward it to someone. We'd love for you to chime in tonight and really talk about it. We may not be in that physical building as a church, but our building, us, this temple, this vessel is the church. And so we have to continue to talk about the tough subject of racism. So here we are. Hey, ladies, how are you?
Hey.
Hey.
Hello, hello, hello. I'm muted.
Hello. Greetings. Tough subject. And I'm going to throw a question out there for you, or a comment I want to throw out there for you for us to kick start it, because I know I almost feel like we wanted to have like a moment of silence, right? Because it's such a tough subject to talk about. But I want to know this, something that I experienced, and I want to know what your thoughts are. I remember back in the day, and I think I was talking to Amanda about this, maybe I was talking to Minister Kaylee about this. But I remember back in the day, I would say about 15 years ago, I was told that wearing braids was unprofessional. It was an unprofessional look in corporate America. God forbid if I wore, a head wrap. And so those types of things are real. What are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on the fact that your culture, your color of your skin may be viewed as unprofessional in the workplace?
Who's gonna go first? TP, come on. I see
Well,
it in
I
your face.
will.
I try not to.
I'll actually.
Go, Amanda.
I'll go first.
Okay, Amanda.
That is the very epitome of what racism is.
Very.
You cannot tell someone that their culture and the way that they do things in their culture is not professional. What standards of professionalism are you holding them to?
Mm-hmm.
And if you answer those questions, it's a very basic question. What is the standard? Whose standard are you holding us to, really? So for me, having braids, I don't have braids now, but I did experience something that was kind of like that, but not with braids. It was with an afro. I had natural hair, of course, before, I went into locks. And I went for a job interview, and my hair was, I don't remember what style it was in. It was pulled back. I think it was in a low bun. And then I went to pick up some paperwork or to fill out some paperwork, and my hair was in a fro. Now, the person who initially interviewed me wasn't there when I went to go pick up the forms, but she asked me about when I came in to fill out the paperwork or something like that. And she's like, "Oh, how was your hair when you came to fill in the paperwork?" And I was like, "It was out." I didn't know, what else to say. And this is a Black woman. So I was like, my hair was out in a fro. And she was like, "Well, we like our employees to have our hair kept neat." Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
So neat.
Yeah.
In her eyes. Wow.
To her, I remember it was when I first came down here to Georgia, and I was staying for like the summer or something like that. And it was a job in the airport, and it was at a beauty store, some type of beauty store in the airport. Yeah.
Wow.
So that was my experience.
And how did you handle it? Did you work there eventually?
No, I didn't. A better opportunity came my way, so I went with that. I mean, that whole experience was just like, wow, you're really gonna try to hold me to a standard of beauty that is not even revered as beautiful in our own culture.
Right.
It was weird.
Right.
Wow.
Very, very weird.
Wow.
That's hurtful.
Yeah.
That's hurtful.
Yeah. That's painful.
Yeah. It
wow.
It definitely was a surprise, if anything else.
How old were you during that time?
I had to have been maybe fresh out of college, 21, 22.
Wow.
Thank you for staying true to your identity, my sister.
Yeah.
That's a hard one.
My God.
You learned it early, though. Yeah. Yeah. That this it's harsh. It's hard.
Happens where you never, you don't expect it. You do not expect it. And for it to come from a Black woman floored me. I was a little taken back by it.
Therein lies, I think Minister Kaylee was talking about this last time we spoke about how we have conditioned ourselves to feel like and not really embraced ourselves. And then we pass that stuff on, we pass it on to, future generations where we say, you got to wear, hair that's not braided. It's got to be straight and flipped and, it's got to be in a style that's not embracive of your culture. I mean, it almost happened to me. And I think, like I said, when that happened to me too, I remember vividly getting my hair braided, and I still left it braided in a bob, but I went to a bob instead of me having like really cool, fun braids. You know what I'm saying? Because I was nervous that I might not get the leadership position, or it might be viewed as unprofessional. And that's that thing that people call unconscious bias. And I say that's BS, because unconscious bias means it's conscious. I mean, I'm just saying, and we have to be careful about that in the workplace, because we want to foster diversity. We don't want people to feel like just because your hair is kinky that it's unprofessional or it's not neat. What's your view of neat? And so we have to really kind of pass that on to our young people, that it's your culture. Our hair is kinky. Most of us have kinky hair, and, it's just the way it falls. Ours fall that way. It doesn't fall in smooth curls all the time,
I want to tag into that whole conversation, because it's really interesting that, Amanda, you had that experience. I moved from Oklahoma, where I was young, and I would wear my hair purple, green, like all kinds of crazy colors and things like that. But for some reason, when I came to Georgia, and I got my first job at the company where I met Denise, and I decided I was going to suppress my natural hair and, not have, my afro out. And I was wearing this little shorty do wig. It was we joke about it now, me and my coworkers at the time, because they were like, I don't know why you wear a little short wig on your head. And, and then I would have this big poofy afro, But what the company I ended up at, guys, it was like, I saw people with locks. I saw people, really, and I was so shocked. It was a culture shock for me. It was like, I was here in Oklahoma, where I was really pushing against the grain, by doing whatever I wanted to do with my hair. And then I come out here and I wanted to elevate. I wanted to move, into higher levels of, positions within the organization. So I thought I had to come in and kind of, this was my chance to make my first big impression. But it's so funny, because then I was able to embrace it. And you can ask, Minister Denise, honey, I busted out. My hair was
I loved it.
It was hair. It was,
your amazing personality came out with it too. It was who you are. And
it's really interesting. And I'm just glad that it didn't, I'm glad it happened to you when you were young. And I don't know what that would have done to me if I was so young. I was quite a little bit older than that. But when I was in my 20s, I was doing whatever. I wore pink hair, long hair. They're like, did that hair grow out your head overnight? Yes, sir, it sure did. Thank you.
And let me throw this in there as we continue this conversation. Do we desire people of color? Do we desire our people to quote unquote act white? I wonder if our white friends out there, I mean, this conversation on racism is going to go all kinds of ways today, because we have to have this conversation. But do our white counterparts, coworkers, in a lot of cases, friends, do they prefer us to quote unquote act white? That was one of the questions that was posed to me yesterday. And what does that mean to act white? What does that mean? You foster more racism by doing that, to mean that the way we are is not real or normal or accepted? What are we doing?
I don't think we should allow people to confuse being professional with acting white. Has nothing to do with black or white. Being professional is being professional, whether you're black, Asian, whatever. We shouldn't allow our kids or other people coming up to confuse being professional with acting white.
But where I see that slogan comes up the most? In our culture, Black people. When I'm out somewhere or doing something, she's being white, she's acting white. So now it all stems from, where did that dichotomy come from, and why are we as Black people speaking that out of our mouth? You have that whole notion, just because I'm talking proper, or just because I am presenting myself in a certain way, why did we accept that level of notion, and we say it. Like I can raise both my hands and say, "Oh, you acting white today," and even though it may be in a jokingly way, but where does that stimulate from, and why have we accepted it
and repeated it?
That's a tough question too. Well, I'm not saying I accept it, but I'm just saying, we talk. You don't have to necessarily say I agree. You agree in your actions. You agree in what you do. So it's interesting, but from a concept of the notion of our counterparts at our offices and businesses saying that type of phrase, if not saying it in that direct way, but I wonder, like you said, Denise, so are they saying we're ghetto? Are they saying our strong voices are too much? Or I would really love more understanding on that, because it's an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
I got one word. Well, it's a hyphenated word, but it's code switching.
Mm-hmm.
It's code switching.
Okay.
Honestly, like when you are amongst one group of people, you do talk a certain way. You do probably behave a certain way. But you know that when you are in the workplace, there's a couple of things that play into that. First of all, you do want to be professional. Yes, you do want to be professional. And you don't want to be perceived as being ghetto. So you do code switch. You do use proper vernacular. You pronunciate your words. You don't say things like I can't even think of the word now, but you be, I be, you be, he be. I am from Mississippi. And sometimes, and I had to be really aware of my, Finsta. I Finsta. I remember asking my mom, I had a friend that was deaf, and I was like, how do you spell Finsta? She's like, baby, this is not a word.
That's a word, girl. That's a.
I'm like, I'm finna to go to the store. That's how we, but I dare not speak like that in a professional environment, because I know how it would be perceived. And really, honestly, it is code switching. When I'm with my family in Mississippi, they would tell me that. They would say, oh, you talk so white. But I had to learn to, pronunciate my words and realize a lot of them words that I learned wasn't words. They weren't even words. Using double, triple negatives in a sentence. But
triple negatives. Oh my God.
Right. But if you want to go
we condone that, and we kind of egg it on too, is what I hear you saying. So we have to do a self-realization there.
Customer service, prime example. Call customer service. I got my daughter works in customer service, and they'll answer the phone with one tone of voice.
Yeah.
and I'll share an example of that. Okay, so when I was 18 and I started working in the bank in customer service, I had a lady, and it's very unfortunate that, of course, I'm going to talk very proper and very professional. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm gonna make this really short. Someone had robbed her. A black man had robbed her, and she went on to say all these things. And she was the N word. She was throwing it all out there. And of course, my manager, they're listening to my calls, and so I had to say, well, ma'am, can you hold on for a moment? And I just had to sit there like, this woman does not realize she's talking to a black person. I told her my name was Tawanica. If you want a black, what you catch? But anyways, long story short, I just say, she didn't realize that I handled that. Basically, I let her know that I was a black person, and that not all my people were like that. But I'm just saying, they just okay. But anyway,
that's terrible.
I thought my name was.
There are some people that are not melanated that their name might be Tawanica. I'm just saying.
I don't know if any missed it.
They might. You never know.
Might be.
You might be right.
I'm going to look that up for the next show.
That's not 2 cents on that.
But you know what? You bring up a valid point. And I know we've got a question that we want to pop up here in a moment. But I do want to say, add another little twist to this as we're talking about this thing. I heard realization, so be cognizant of kind of my translation is be cognizant of what we're putting back out there, based on what we've heard. We say that too. You must be at work. Why you sounded like that? I'm at work because I'm being professional. I'm not splitting my verbs today. Racism in the workplace. How do you handle that? Do you believe it's still, and I know this is going to be a loaded question, it still is actively in the workplace? How do you handle it? Has it happened to you or someone what have you done when it happened? How should we respond? Should we just, a lot of times people say, if we say feel like we're being discriminated against, that we're throwing the race card so easily. What are your thoughts on that?
I want to say I've seen it, at the last place of business that I worked, it was a dental office. I seen the boss he would keep some of the Black patients waiting, even though they may have been there first. They could have been waiting an hour. He would go in and see his people he knew and he thought highly of. He would see them first, even though these people were scheduled first. He would not give vacation time off to minority when she would ask, said, you have to get coverage, this, that, and the other. But let the other girl of another persuasion ask. He makes the Black girl cover for her. And he always has off when she asks. He didn't necessarily always directly do it with me, but I watched him do it with others. I watched him when he was going to hire someone. He looked at their address and said, oh, they're from, a certain side of town. He saw their address. All of that's racism. All of that could still have charges put against him and really should. But I called him on it because they had the girl from the certain address come in. I was like, that's no reason not to give her an interview or not to hire her or have her come in. So they had her come in because I spoke up. Then they had her work maybe 3 weeks on a working interview. Most of the time you do a day, maybe 2 on a working interview. They kept working her on a working interview status, using her basically. And then when it's time to hire, we don't know. I don't know. Still that kind of like, what's the reason? Nobody could speak up because it was a team kind of thing. And we, worked with her closely and we all got to give our opinions. And I was like, she did this, and this. What's y'all's reason for not wanting to hire her? They could give me none. I knew why. But, and he ended up hiring her. I mean, she may have lasted maybe 1.5 years, 2 years. And some of the things that other girls may have gotten away with, they would not let her get away with. And she, eventually got fired. But yeah, it's disheartening. And I made a very good salary there. And I had a following of patients for myself. I hated to leave my patients and my good job, but I knew I was working for a racist. And there was no guarantee that the next dentist or person would not be a racist as well.
Sad.
When I tell you, I just want to stop and have a moment of prayer. I'm like, this is real stuff. And and I'm so sorry you went through that because we always feel like we're like handcuffed, like we can't say anything, and we can't do anything. And if we do something or say something, we might lose our jobs. And, we're opening up about this. So prayerfully, somebody's listening and know that you don't have to deal with that stuff. I mean, we know you got to take care of your family. We know that it's not right. I mean, Wendy just opened up and told us about what she experienced. And that poor young lady that was directly, she may have known or not known, but either way, Wendy witnessing it is still, it's like, ouch, and if you are in corporate America and that's happening, you have a right to take it to your leader who is racist. And if they don't receive you and you got to go professional, right? Then you take it to their boss, you document everything, you take it to HR. There's no reason why anybody should work under those conditions.
Right.
We all bleed red. Last time I checked, you know, and in the church, you know, we really need to talk about things like what Wendy experienced, you know, with our young people, right? You know, have forums where we talk about how to handle it, since we are woke now, right? We're woke about this thing. I mean, you know, Floyd, and I mean, we can go on and say all their names at what's happening just this year, right? And that's just been with police. We haven't even tipped the iceberg of what's happening in the workforce.
Right.
You know, I'm sure there's
like
thousands of stories like what Wendy just said. Millions.
And what really I think is important is starting the conversation. Silence is a silent agreement.
It is. Silence is not golden.
You know?
I agree.
Yeah. You're right.
So
Sister, you keep freezing up a little bit.
At all whatsoever.
Sister, you keep freezing up a little bit there.
Me?
Yes. I just wanted to let you know we hear you. We're not cutting you off or nothing. We want to make sure you know we're not cutting you off, but it keeps freezing up. Because we know we'll have a meeting in the ladies' room after this, you know, podcast, and I don't want you to think we cutting you off.
Right.
Don't want to mess with Amanda.
Oh, wow.
But you're right. Silence is not golden. And I'm so glad that Wendy stood up. You know, I'm so glad that Wendy stood up and said something. And we all have to speak up.
Yeah.
And it's not usually as bad as what we think is going to happen, especially now with everybody being woke, right? You know, there's so many people in the workforce and I've talked to some of my friends that are white, and they've said to me, you know what, Denise, I used to be a part of the problem. Like what you went through, Wendy, they say, you know what, I was the one who wasn't hiring people. I was the one who was giving, you know, my other people that look like me preferential treatment. And that just ain't right. I don't know what I was thinking about. I was the one who heard the water cooler conversations they would tell me. And then they would just let them happen and just walk away instead of saying that's not right. So now that everybody is woke, we definitely need to make sure we go through the proper channels. You all that are out there that are experiencing this, whether you're working from home or you're having to commute into that office, if you feel like something is wrong, chances are it's wrong, and you really need to speak up the right way.
And I mean, there's so many, you know, diversity and inclusion initiatives that are going on in all these various organizations. I mean, so if, and I think I was sharing that earlier, that, you know, it just having that conversation that we as Black people have to have with our children, you know, that, you know, some, you know, white people don't have to have that same conversation. You're talking about college and all that stuff. We're talking about, we need you to get home safely, and this is how you interact with the police when you're pulled over, you know, things of that nature. And so, you know, it has to happen, and it's unfortunate that it took such you know, traumatic, you know, terrible events for us to all wake up and start to talk about it. But we do have to talk about it.
We do, you know, at least weekly. You know, there's different scenarios that come up. You're so right, TP. I mean, our conversations are totally different if we're having conversations with our children. Many of our families are working so hard, you know, by the time we get home, our kids are asleep or on their devices. I say put the devices down and schedule some time with our children, or, you know. And, you know, it's funny because Friday nights is date night with me and my kids.
That's awesome.
Nice.
So
that sounds great.
Yeah, I mean, it's date night. I mean, at 7:00, I mean, most of the time I'm chasing them, but I'm like, no, y'all said y'all wanted date night since this whole COVID thing happened. So I'm gonna hold you to it. But I can honestly say that I myself, like many parents out there, single parents, you know, that work a lot and all that, and, you know, trying to hold on to your youth a little bit. I try to do that a little bit, in the ministry and all that. We get kind of out there and we really don't listen to our children, to what they're saying and what they're not saying. And so I can say that for me, I'm glad in some regards that we had this shutdown, because it made me accountable to my kids and have those tough conversations,
Reset. That's what I said. This whole that's a whole nother side note, but I just said this was a reset.
Yeah. We needed to talk about this stuff, we really need to talk about this stuff. We got a question up on the line. We're going to take a break in a minute. Actually, let's take a break and then we'll come back to a question. Can we do that? Is that possible? A 30-second?
Oh, we're grooving too. Oh, you went way back.
Look, and if Miss Kayla was here, I'd be doing the bump. Okay, yeah. So anyway, ImPowered Woman comeback. The comeback. She Rocks 2021 conference is here. January 16th, 2021. We're super excited. Many of the women that are on this podcast will be speaking, facilitating workshops. We're going to be having She Rocks Financially in 2021. She Rocks Spiritually. She Rocks Healthy. She Rocks in Relationships. We've got some really cool workshops, entertainment, all that, keynote speak. We're going to have an amazing time virtually. Mm-hmm. And it's only $25. So come on and get pumped up for our virtual event, y'all. So anyway, that's my commercial. So what's the next question that we have? Can you be an unaware racist? Oh, do you think those kind of people exist? Yeah.
Yeah.
You can be a black racist too now. It goes both ways.
Come on.
Reverse racism goes both ways. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And listen, we can be racist against not just white, but Hispanic. My neighbor said to me, our lawn care guy didn't do a good job on her lawn. And the first thing came out of her mouth, I can't even repeat it. But she referenced it was because of da 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 and they and this, and I went, oh, don't do that. No, we don't do. Oh, I was like, here, no. I mean, she started to you. I didn't consider it funny because that's not cool. Mm-hmm. He just may have had a bad day. That's why your yard didn't look great today, or maybe his lawnmower is not working because that might be what it is. You know what I'm saying? It could be a whole bunch of things that caused him to do what he did, or didn't do.
Because honestly, when I think of that question, it makes me think about how certain practices are institutionalized. So it's like racism that you have grown up with, but not. You can't really put it, you can't really put your finger on it because it's something that you grew up with in so many different lights, from the things that you see on television to what is considered appropriate behavior and what is considered professional behavior. All of those things are a part of an American culture that is just shown to us constantly. So it's like if you're seeing from a child that most of the doctors are white males, it's like, oh, doctors are white males, or teachers are white females. Like, oh, I can expect my teacher to be a white female.
Or to be a
So we
female,
have,
period.
yes, and nurses, females, and those are things that we have to be aware of, and those are things that we have to really like free our minds from, because
Yeah.
it's something that you get bombarded with all of the time, that you think it's a social norm. And when enough people believe something is a social norm, it becomes a social norm.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that is so true. Do y'all have career days in your churches?
I did.
Not in school, in your church.
Yeah, it was a long time ago, but yeah, we had a career day, and it was kind of like everyone, all of the ministers and everyone who had an office would talk about what they did. And just explain like, okay, I'm more than just a minister. I'm more than just this person in front of you. I have a life outside of, what you see me as, because that's what kids think, that teachers are teachers 100% of the time.
Did I just show my wings while we were talking? Oh, wow. I got wings bigger than yours. Anyway, sorry. Lighten the moment. Oh, Wendy's going to say she's got something for wings. I'm sorry.
That's a whole nother show.
I had to make light of that. Whoa, I'm lighten the moment.
That's funny.
I couldn't have that. I've experienced wings too. You get a certain age, you get wings. There's things.
Oh, wait a minute. Wash your mouth out with soap. You can have wings in your 30s, girl. What do you mean?
None in my 30s. Are you in your 30s?
No, I'm in my 50s.
I know. I was like, I'm in my 50s too. I didn't have.
Oh, you said that. I thought Amanda said that you get old when you have wings.
Oh no, I said that. No, I said
that was you, Wendy. Okay.
Yeah, that was me. We're in the 50s.
All right, I can put my dukes down now, Wendy.
Oh my God.
You 30-somethings.
Wow.
Bailey.
I'm not commenting on any of that.
Yeah.
I'm not touching that either, Amanda.
Is peppermint oil good for wings?
Indirectly.
Can some aromatherapy help these wings?
A fashion tool.
We're talking about 2020 leaving next week, by the way. So don't come up here next week with no what do you call those things? New Year's resolution things next Saturday. We're talking about 2020, why it should go on next. Okay, so I got one last question for you because we're over time. I had a question for you. Outside of the wings. What do you do or what have you done when somebody lately, especially lately, goes, well, my best friend is Black.
Oh my.
And they're white. Or, Denise, how could that happen, Denise? Because I let Black people in my home. What do you say and have a really good conversation with that individual? You listen, you breathe, what do you say? I mean, I see some folks getting a little mad right now.
I don't say anything
for it.
I don't say anything. I don't say anything. I just, it really, honestly, it tells me where you're at. It tells me who you are, where you're at, and I have no reason to, no energy to spend on trying to. No, I know where you are.
I see your nostrils flaring up there, girl.
I'm good.
Mr. Kaylee, what's up? In love, yes.
When that is said, I'm the same way, TP. I don't have anything to say, but I will say that shows me. First of all, you can have a Black friend all you want. That could be your cover up, so you don't be labeled as racist. You can go right back to your home and say, "Ian, that nappy headed, that." You can talk about all this other stuff behind my back, but you were friends with me in the office, because it looks good.
Mm-hmm.
2020 took off a whole bunch of them band-aids and showed a whole bunch of faces. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm sorry,
and it's the truth. And even let's not even go there. Some people, even in business, people are purposely now, especially hiring Black people so they can say they're diverse. They're diverse. Exactly. So you're just doing that to look good on paper. You're not hiring me because of my expertise. You're not hiring me because of my gifts and talents and skills. You're hiring me so you don't have to worry about Black Lives Matter showing up at your quarter. At your offices.
I'm a quota. I've been at an organization before where I knew I was part of that quota.
But it goes really, really deep. I mean, everyone remembers affirmative action, right?
Yeah.
This goes pretty deep. You know, erasing that mindset is going to take some time, but through conversation as a start, it's a start.
It's a start.
It'll be a start.
That goes right back to where do we start? Like we're having tonight, we're having a conversation. We can't cover up this thing. And I brought that question out there, and I really appreciate all the intensity on that response. I brought it up because it happened to me recently. I had and I'll be careful how I say this, but I had a challenge in a particular environment. And once I was able to kind of calm down and really talk to that individual about it, because I didn't want to come across, as TP said last week, what people think. I didn't want to come across that way. I truly wanted it to be a learning moment for me and a learning moment for them, because we have to be slow to anger, right? Quick to listen, slow to speak, all of that. We have to, be the light that we want to see. And it was hard. It was hard. So the only way that I could do that was to wait to respond. And I asked, the leadership in that particular organization, I need you to leave this alone because I have a bad case of Tourette's. I know I'm a minister, I'm human, and it's not the right time to respond right now. So it took me months. When I finally talked to that individual, the first thing that individual said to me, Denise, I got Black friends, my best friend. I said, stop. Oh no, stop. I said, stop. Right there. We're doing good. And I was
turn them around.
Stop. Yeah, stop. Don't do that. Okay. And he was like, no. I'm telling you, it just breaks my heart and blah, blah. I said, let's just move on from what was said and just know that I've experienced sexism, racism, and I see it as clear as I see you right now. And I said, so we're going to move on because we have to work together. Okay. But I recognize that. And we moved on because we got to work together. We got to collaborate together, right? I can't get around it. I can't show up in the boardroom and say, I ain't gonna look at him no more. I can't do that. I could, but then I won't be there long.
That's right.
Or I just need to leave, right? And so, some people call you just conforming, but you know what? I don't have to see that person all the time. I don't have to go to dinner with them. Nobody's going to make me go to dinner or lunch with them. We're in different states. You're going to experience that wherever we go. But we have to recognize when somebody says that, shame on you if you don't, open your ears to hear and your eyes to see that you need to be very cautious and strategic, around those individuals. And we still need to stay focused on our work, whether we're going to stay there or leave. That's just me. But I brought that up just kind of see what y'all's response would be, because that kind of threw me off. It threw me off really bad.
Well, I'm sorry that happened to you. Yeah. Because it's like we all have stories, and that kind of indicates, how bad things are, Yeah. And also how much more conversation needs to be had, and how steps need to be created in order to rectify it, because it's more than it's more than just a conversation here and there. It has to be an ongoing situation. It's ongoing. It'll always be changing. It'll always be evolving, and the consequences should do the same.
Yeah, you're right.
Like you cannot treat someone, you can't discriminate against someone without there being some type of consequence, period. There shouldn't be there should be a solid recourse, because unfortunately, a lot of people need that. A lot of people need to know that if you don't keep yourself in line, if you're not holding yourself to a standard set by this company, you should be let go by this company.
By this company. That's real.
Yes.
Wow.
Can I chime in there?
Can you chime in? And then Kaylee, can you give us closing comments after TP?
Mine is real quick. I just want to say, guys,
good.
1968 is when, the civil rights movement, kind of, came to its end. We are, that's about 52 years. 52. Think about it. Yes, it's going to take time, and we have got to. I'm glad we're having the conversation. I'm glad that we have started. I'm glad we're woke.
Yeah, and we're not scared to talk about it. You're right, and we shouldn't be fearful to talk about it. You're right. Thank you for that, TP. Wow.
Yeah. Wendy, did you have anything?
No, I agree. Like she said, be strategic. That's how we have to be in our responses. Be strategic and cautious in your approach, because we have to remain in those positions of higher power, or and we want to help bring in others. So don't just tear it all down just because one idiot said something wrong or offensive. Don't throw your career away over something like that. That's what I would say.
Love it.
And, Denise, I would like to just have closing remarks of saying thank you for allowing us to have this opportunity to discuss this, allowing to have a space to discuss it as Black individuals. And it's a safe place as well, because sometimes even in our own families, it's not safe to have these conversations, and we're all Black.
Wow.
Of course, some families maybe mix, I'm not trying to be generic, but I thank you for creating this space to do that, because it's not many. So I encourage everyone watching and who's watching the replay to get in those spaces, start having the conversations, get in your safe spaces and start having the conversations. Let's educate one another. Let's empower one another, and talk about the seriousness of racism and how we can individually, one by one, make that change. Because I really believe if Martin can do it, if Malcolm X can do it, if all of these different historians can do
That's
it.
right. That's so right.
That we can do it as well. But I believe that we just lack the tenacity that they had.
Wow. Real. That's real.
If I do a lot. So, yeah, that's what I'll say.
That's real. Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.